Nerdrotic.com.
As Disney, Marvel goes, Hollywood goes. So I'm sure not many of you are going to be that upset to hear that one underperforming Disney Marvel film called Black Widow, which could actually be a flop, is leading to a Hollywood implosion. Hollywood is in big trouble right now. And yes, we are going to talk about Black Widow. The question is still being asked. Is Black Widow a flop? I say if you have to ask that question 25 days into its release, the answer is yes. If Black Widow wasn't a flop, then why is ScarJo suing Disney? Things are getting interesting, folks, especially if you're a big fan of Disney Schadenfreude, which I personally am. So let's enjoy some, shall we? Disney versus Scarlett Johansson, why a ton of lawsuits may be next. Long story short, on the ScarJo lawsuit, she is suing Disney because she was promised performance incentives based on Black Widow being released exclusively in movie theaters. This is a big problem, and it looks like Ema Stone is thinking about suing as well. And according to producer Jason Blum, there are a ton of lawsuits to come.
I'm gonna come.
And why is this happening? Well, streaming is an easy way to hide numbers from the public and from adult pretenders. And that's not all. Turns out Kevin Feige is angry and embarrassed over Disney's reaction to Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit. This is so good. As the Bob Chapek-led regime goes to war with a Marvel star, Hollywood stars and creatives fear the end of massive back-end deals. We all know how Hollywood feels about massive back-end deals, and I don't think they're going away for anyone other than the adult pretender. Let's set aside for a moment the question of whether Scarlett Johansson has a legal leg to stand on in her fight with Disney over her compensation for Black Widow. Let's even say she doesn't, and that she is, as Disney publicly contended, greedy and indifferent to the horrors of the pandemic. Again, I will ask, if Black Widow was such a success, why would Disney come out and call the star of their successful film greedy and indifferent? It doesn't matter, because even if all of that were true, industry insiders agree attacking Johansson so personally was a pretty spectacular unforced error, and many observers are laying that at the feet of CEO Bob Chapek, with an assist from reflexively vindictive top communications officer Xenia Mucha, and with approval from the lawyers. The chief communications officer for Disney, the person who communicates with people, is vindictive. Well, that might explain this. There is no merit whatsoever in this filing, Disney said in an unusually fiery statement. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID pandemic. Is it that unusual? Because it reminds me of the firing of Gina Carano. Gina Carano was not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future, a Lucasfilm spokesperson said in a statement. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. Now, this is just a side note. I find both statements towards ScarJo and Gina equally vindictive. It's almost like they came from the same person. The one person who isn't getting the blame, the weatherman. Outgoing chairman Bob Iger. Somebody's playing it like an amateur, says one former Disney executive. Iger's no amateur. A top executive at a rival studio agrees, adding that the whole confrontation seems ill-advised and avoidable. It's insane to me. Insane, he says. Do you think on Bob Iger's watch he would have ever allowed a piece of talent to sue them? ScarJo is a piece of talent. Now, the great thing for us is we're seeing this implosion happen in real time, and this is all because Black Widow flopped. A Disney insider says that the blame for the statement is being placed unfairly at Chapek's feet. I wonder who that insider is. Is it Bob Chapek? And this was not a unilateral decision nor an edict from him. It is difficult, however, to discern who, if anyone, on the studio side was informed in advance. This is sounding a lot like the Gina Carano situation, a situation that absolutely no one had a problem with in Hollywood, but all of a sudden everybody's coming to the defense of ScarJo. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not feeling sorry for ScarJo either. I'm just enjoying some good old-fashioned Disney Schadenfreude. Disney's posture is being read in Hollywood as Chapek signaling his indifference to star talent, only surpassed by Disney's indifference to the paying customer and all of those people in camps that you concentrate in. However indifferent he may be, there is one star Chapek and Disney absolutely unequivocally need: Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, who is known to be very unhappy with the studio's attack on one of his superheroes. And there's this: Kevin Feige angry and embarrassed over Disney's reaction to Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit. A new rumor claims that Kevin Feige is upset with Disney's response and treatment of Scarlett Johansson as well, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter, and Salon's former Hollywood reporter Matt Belloni recently detailed in his industry newsletter what I'm hearing, that Feige is angry and embarrassed by Disney. I think we've heard that a couple of times. Belloni wrote, Feige is a company man, and I think they meant to say not prone to corporate showdowns or shouting matches, but I'm told he's angry and embarrassed. Yes, Kevin Feige is famously passive-aggressive. He lobbied against the day and date plan for Black Widow, preferring the big screen exclusivity and not wanting to upset his talent. He also noted that when the shit hit the fan, you mean when the movie started flopping, the movie started tanking. Exactly. And Johansson's team threatened litigation. Feige wanted Disney to make this right with her. While I'm sure Kevin Feige is angry about Disney's treatment of ScarJo, he might be angry about a couple of other things, including the 2 movies he has left on his slate. There's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, where the only memorable thing to happen in 2 trailers was a cameo from a Hulk villain. And there's that being banned in China thing that might be a bit of a problem. But not to worry, because Shang-Chi will be introducing Marvel's Katie.
Oh, look at this. Marvel's Katie. 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 Is it Marvel's Rose Tico? What's this? Super scissoring.
Then there's the Eternals, from acclaimed director Chloe Zhao, who has taken Jack Kirby's glorious 4-color world and gave it a color palette of mud and poop. And then, of course, there's that money shot.
No.
Oh, and there's also that being banned in China thing. Now, there are a lot of factors that went into the failure that is Black Widow, including the coof, the horrific marketing. Black Widow Scarlett Johansson explains why it's important to push conversations around gendered superheroes. You want to know who wants to have those conversations? Blue check marks on Twitter and no one else. And of course, there was this.
You know, the movie is about the subjugation of women.
Now, yes, the film was about the subjugation of women, but if you wouldn't have said anything, you might have had a better first weekend. And there's also that little detail of it being a bad film. Maybe you shouldn't have dived into identity politics. Maybe you shouldn't have given in to the intersectional feminists and turned a superhero franchise into propaganda. Maybe the MCU shouldn't have been turned into a platform. Maybe it shouldn't be the MCU. Just look in the mirror, Kevin, if you're mad at anyone. Or maybe think about putting a little more effort into it. I mean, you put a woman's head on a man's body with Taskmaster and Marvel's Katie. And again, I don't feel sorry for ScarJo or any other millionaire that's suing billionaires. Now, as far as this lawsuit's impact on the entire industry, it could be huge. It could lead to an adult pretender strike. But this article does shed some light on the streaming wars and inexplicable contracts, including Alex Kurtzman getting $150 million. In time, Johansson is likely to have company on the battle lines. It's a much bigger existential fight that she's really leading, says producer Jason Blum. Turns out all of that back-end money that the actors were getting is going to go to the executives. The alternative to paying the talent, he notes, is paying the corporation. And how, he asks, is Is that better? It's not, but again, that explains the Alex Kurtzman inexplicable contract extension. We'll probably get a Kathleen Kennedy contract extension. I wouldn't be surprised. It explains the garbage we've gotten on Disney Plus, including the disappointing WandaVision, the preachy Falcon and Winter Soldier, and the intersectional feminist porn that was Loki. Oh, and we can't forget Marvel's What If, following in the tradition of the Taskmaster and the Masters of the Universe. What if Captain America had a male body with a female head? It doesn't matter to me whether my movie is a huge hit or not. The pressure's off. He doesn't want to embarrass himself, but a project just needs to be good enough to get the next deal. This may help explain why so many movies made for streamers seem to be shit. And that statement came from an unnamed producer at a major studio. In other words, storytelling doesn't matter anymore. It's just about content. What streamers are betting on is that in the next 3 to 5 years, there will only be 3 or 4 of them left pumping content into homes, and they'll be so powerful, they will be able to push the price down of producing, of paying talent, of paying producers, of paying writers, directors, says Blum. I personally don't think they'll be able to do that, but that's what they're betting on. And the giant 9,000-pound elephant in the room that this article does not talk about is the movie theaters. When I saw Black Widow on opening day, the theater was a quarter full. I just saw Jungle Cruise this past weekend, a dumb Disney movie, on its opening weekend, and I sat in an empty IMAX theater. Things are not looking good. Hollywood is contracting, and then there's this news. Hollywood's hope for post-Labor Day office reopenings fading as COOF cases spike. And hell, we'd be locked down already if it wasn't for Gavin Newsom's recall, the same Gavin Newsom that ScarJo and her ilk supported and were made essential over millions of Californians. So no tears for ScarJo. All I know is this is great. Kevin Feige is pissed. ScarJo is suing Disney. Disney is shaming ScarJo. Ema Stone and a lot of other people might sue Disney. And all of this is because of one underperforming Disney Marvel film. Black Widow was a flop. Hashtag Black Widow lost money. If you like what I do, please like, share, and subscribe. If you don't like what I do, thanks for listening this long. I'll see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.